Welcome to The Last Page, where we dive beneath the headlines, talk directly with the voices that shape policy and impact lives. Today's guest is a leader whose career has spanned both the airwaves and the halls of public service. He's a four-term county commissioner for Douglas County, Georgia, a U.S. Army veteran, and he's the vice president at Reach Media, home to some of the most influential shows in Black radio today. Please welcome to the show, Commissioner Henry Mitchell III. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. And let me say, first of all, thank you for allowing me to be amongst a great celebrity star, as I would call you, Mr. Moss. So, hey, I'm glad to be a part of your show. So thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, now the way I like to do, I like to just jump right in,
Okay.
and go right in.
Okay.
I broke down the segments. Let's talk about the role of the commission. What exactly? Like, I'm from New England, so there are a lot of transplants who are down here in the South who aren't accustomed to working with like board of commissions. Let's talk about the board of commission and its function.
Okay. Sure.
Is that all right?
Yes, that's fine. Okay. So basically, not basically, but our job, our true essence of our job is to set policies. We set policies, give directions to the county administrator or county manager as to kind of what our ultimate goals are when it comes to governing locally as to what we see the vision of Douglas County. So what that means and what that really truly entails is that just try to get some simple examples. You know, what's the overlay? What's the future land use anticipating a Highway 92 bypass, you know, through the city, through the county, and being a regional project? What do we envision that bypass to incorporate as businesses, homes, and so on? And what that looks like from now as we trying to get it from a federal level to a state to a local level, and what we envision that to look like for that community in the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years. So it's about policy. And I think that's where a lot of what I don't call myself a politician, but you may call me that. I call myself a true public servant. And I want to ensure that my vision aligns with that community vision as to what they envision their community to look like. And the bottom line was our job is to set policy, and policy that will align with the community's vision in the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
So you're in your fourth term. What's changed the most in Douglas County since you first took office?
Oh my God. Okay. Now I took office roughly about 2000, and I came on board in city municipal government, which I served as the councilman and then the mayor pro tem in the city of Douglasville. I mean, it really was a small town, more bedroom community, and now it's part of the metropolitan side of Atlanta. So we are one of those 6 counties that is a part of that Fulton, Atlanta, Cobb, metropolitan side of things when it comes to ARC. So we have grown we're huge now based on the size when I got here. When I got here, I mean, we didn't have the Highway 92 bypass. We didn't have, Fairburn Road was a short-lived road when I got here. And now we've got major businesses up and down Fairburn Road, on Thornton Road. I mean, things have changed so much. We've got commercial development. We've got Google here now. We've got Red Cross here. We've got some major players in the game that when I first got here, we were just a bedroom community where I would ride my bike out, my motorcycle. I would ride my bike out in and out of town and going back and forth to Atlanta to work. And that was it, you know.
Wow. And how long have you been here again?
I got out here probably about 95, I'm going to say, somewhere like that, you know, give or take, somewhere around about there. But I got into government early, right at 2000. And I got into government, but I used to coach the Winston Raiders football team. Me and a guy by the name of Barry Bowens, and we coached we coached out there with the Winston Raiders, won a couple of championships, and it was fun,
Right,
out west, out there in Winston. And so I did that for God knows how many years, helping the kids in my community, be great, looking up to men like myself and others, that look like them. And that's kind of what I did for many years. That's why I'm giving myself in that 2000, at least about 10 years prior to that I kind of did that coaching side of things. Then we moved the coaching side of things down to the city of Douglasville with the Tiger Cubs. I decided to kind of bow out, but my friend, he decided to stay in with them. So he coached the Tiger Cubs for many years. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Tiger Cubs, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was about community, and we want to make sure that the community, the folks the kids that look like us could, have somebody to look up to and be a part of something great. And like I said, won a couple of championships, had a couple of great runs at that coaching side of things, from football, basketball to baseball. I've always been a community person. Always been a community person. And that's kind of where I'm born and raised back in Northeast Atlanta. That's just kind of what we did. We did community. It was about community. I'm from that side of town. I don't know if you're familiar with Auburn Avenue, the King Center, Grady Homes, Sweet Street Gardens, that side of things. That's where I'm from, Oakwood.
Okay. I'm not familiar, but I'm getting familiar. But
yes.
I appreciate you sharing that, because it gives me a better understanding of how you function within your capacity as a commissioner. For my very, very short stay there, it's kind of like I had an opportunity to assess the different personalities, and I appreciate your style. Let me just say that. And I'm watching you interacting in public spaces. I'm like, wow.
Can I ask you though? Since you said that, so what is my style? What's your vision from, Steve, from the outside looking in? There's a different perspective. So what do you see that maybe I can say, oh wow, you need to improve on this, or you are great at that,
Nah, I like how grounded you are, and there's no false airs about you. It's kind of like when you run across Commissioner Henry Mitchell, you're actually running across Commissioner Henry Mitchell.
All the time.
Having worked in the political world for the last 25 years, working for a number of different politicians in the past, it's kind of like most people put on their mask, and all of a sudden, it's like, hey man, one of the things I like, there's no bobblehead in you. You're just like, hey, how you doing? I'm walking down, hey, and it's like, for me, that's cool. So I love how down to earth you are. Then at the same time, it's kind of like, I love how competent you are in terms of how you do your job.
Yes.
Most of the questions that you ask are done in a way in which, when that what's it called, the citizens hall is packed, you communicate things in a way in which everybody can get it. You're not superficial. You're not trying to be super intellectual. You're not trying to be ethereal. Most of what you say, you use layman's terms in an intelligent capacity. And it's like, okay, he knows what he's talking about. And I'm like, you ask common sense questions, as a former homeowner, hopefully I'll be one again. It's kind of like, wow, I would ask that same question. Yeah, I'm concerned about that too. So it's about shaping and crafting policy.
Yeah.
But it seems like you're on the other side, like, for the blue collar or the white collar, on the median side of the income, just trying to live every day. These are the questions that are relevant. And I appreciate that. I mean, all the commissioners were good in their own way.
Yes.
But I'm like, okay,
well,
I'm a community guy. So it's kind of like, I can relate to this guy. I like him.
Yeah. Well, let me add to that. See, you're right on point. See, my dialect and my dialogue with those that have communications with me, that's why I created Coffee and Conversations, because I knew there were times when people didn't like standing up at the podium, having conversations with their commissioners and chair, and sometimes forgetting their name. So I sat there and I used to see that, and I was like, wow, it's intimidating.
Yes.
So I said, let me figure out a way to create something that's small and intimate, and we can all just kind of just have a conversation and ask those questions that you may feared to ask, but everybody in the room wanted to know the answer to, but felt like that was a dumb question. So I created coffee and conversations. And I do that every other month in my district. That's why I say I have more community gatherings and town halls than any commission that exists, because I'm constantly in the field having the dialect with you. So I kind of have my finger on the pulse of the community. And that was always my goal, is to have my conversations with those that really wanted to know the answer to the millage rate. They wanted to know the answer to why my streets are not paved or have potholes and so on. And what can I do about it? And so I came across that coffee and conversation. And what it did, though, it gave those that want to ask me these kind of questions a chance to ask and sit down and have that dialect in a smaller setting, and felt like they're amongst their own peers and friends, that people that, you know, can feel like them and ask questions like them. Then they can feel a little more confident in asking that question, even though the question may have been a bit left, but it's okay. I can ask it now, because there's not the cameras and everything is not on, and I can just, you know, I can feel comfortable enough to say, I just wanted to know why this is going on in my community and why we're doing nothing else about it. So yes, I try to keep it simple. I try to, even when I'm up on the stage, I try to make sure when I'm having conversation with those that are trying to bring a business in Douglas County, or a community person who's trying to understand why my millage rate may go up or down, and I can at least have some dialogue with them when I'm sitting at the podium. I can have that conversation with them on a term that they can relate to. I don't need to sound so intellectual as you stated. I don't need to talk at them. I need to make them a part of the conversation. And that's always my ultimate goal. Even though I may have all the information and it may not line up to what you want, but you'll get the truth. And that's why, as you stated, this is what you'll get with Henry Mitchell III every time you see him. It's not a mask that I'll pull over and say, hi, this is the guy today. And now today it's going to be like, no. I mean, and that's why I always tell people, my yes is my yes and my no is my no. But I'm always open enough to have dialect with those that could convince me otherwise. And that's my motto.
How do you stay so grounded? I mean, after being in politics, or being, you know, working in a political capacity for all these years, how do you stay? I mean, I've watched people transform, going from like really cool, down to earth people to becoming very stoic in their mannerisms. How do you stay grounded? Because again, this show airs up in Mass as well. And I need some of them to see that to be a politician doesn't mean you have to imitate what you see on TV sometimes. You can still be yourself. So talk to me. How do you stay grounded?
Well, it's simple. Just be who you are. I'm not going to sound like Kermit the Frog, and I'm not. So I'm just going to continue, because my goal in all of this is to be able to communicate to those who are less fortunate, who have more money than some, and communicate the same information truthfully, honestly, and respectfully, that we can all either agree and or disagree, but do it professionally. Because do understand, all of my conversations are not conversations that are things that you like, things that you would like to have, or things that you would dislike. So I have to kind of balance the two to make sure that you understand that these are true facts as to what I'm going to deliver to you, whether you like them or not. That's why, if you notice, I think you come to a couple of my coffee and conversations, I'll always make that statement known, that you'll get the truth from Commissioner Henry Mitchell III, even though you may not like it. But in the end, what happens in that whole conversation, like, I really appreciate that. I've had many Republicans come to my coffee and conversations, yet along my town hall meetings, and say, I really appreciate you, more because of your honesty. More because of your honesty. And I'm not going to give you the fluff or give you something that's not true. And if it's truth, I'll give it to you. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to always like it, because ultimately I've got to make the final decision. But I want to intake any and all conversations that you may have, why you like it, why you dislike it, you know, and I want to take in all of that stuff so I can go back and make a true educated decision. But do understand, I'm also doing my research on in the particular issues that are at hand to make sure that I see now that this makes sense to do or not to do.
Okay.
And that's, I think it's just my honesty that keeps me rooted and grounded. And my mom, who always said, boy, you better do right by people.
Right.
You better do right by people. And that's just it. So
Some people take the vote for granted. They get in office and it's kind of like they
oh,
begin
yes.
to create these stratas that separate them from the people who vote for them, and they forget how
Yes.
valuable that vote is. What's your impression of the vote and people taking the time to actually get up out of their beds, out of their homes, leave work, whatever it is they may be doing, just to go and vote for you here in District 1? I mean,
But
talk to me about that.
but let me add to that though. See,
Okay,
what
add to it.
happens, what happens is this. Those of us who come into office, local, state, and federal, tend to change because they become a politician. I veer not to even cross that path of I understand the label, but
Mhm.
that's not who I am. I
Okay.
am a true public servant. You'll always hear me say that. So, and what that means is that I'm going to always give you the truth, not whether you like it or not, but I'll always give you the truth. And I'm always going to be open door policy to listen to what you may have to say about the truth or not.
Right.
So the problem become we get into these nice positions and we look at the power and we look at the status quo with who I am. I'm that guy now, and I poke my chest out to be something that I'm really not. So
Right.
now you gotta wear that image on your shoulders and stand up tall and but you never stood up tall anytime up until now when you got that position. Stop. So
Right.
stop becoming politicians. When you came into office, you were talking about how you want to be a true public servant and you want
Mhm.
to serve those that were fortunate or less fortunate. I'm not trying to weigh any two or greater than or less than.
Right.
Be that person and be true to that cause that you came in for. Not when you get there become, oh yeah, I'm that guy now. They gotta the buck stops with me. And oh, okay, yes, but you don't have to emulate what that is. Be
Right.
who you came when you came into office, talking about all these great things that you would like to do. And I did that though.
Okay.
Just another quick story, and I know you didn't ask this though, but
No,
on,
no,
on
no,
another
sure.
setting, when I came in the office in early 2000, I came in the office with the mere fact of going in and saving everybody, not understanding politics, not
Mhm.
understanding government operations. So I had a lot to learn because I came there ready to change the world on the north side from which I served
Mhm.
and went there with the premise of just one premise. They asked of me, can you get us across the tracks when the train is coming? I said, wow, that's easy. I'll go up there and I'll knock them around and we're going to find the money and dot, 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 dot. That was one of the hardest tasks that I had taken on ownership of in my very first run in office.
Right.
But keep in mind, my colleagues before me. And it's been a 30-year, 40-year span trying to get the north side across the tracks on the south side for 30 years plus because they could never put the puzzle together to make it happen.
Right.
Well, guess what? I did. I
Okay.
did because I went with a strategy. I went with a purpose. I went with the cause and I listened to the community. I listened to government to understand the process. I didn't do it in my first term in office, but I got there. And that's why you see the Highway 92 bypass. That was
Okay.
$100+ million project that I had to make it regional and take it from the state to the federal to kind of get those dollars with Congressman Scott. So it was a long, hard journey, but it
Right.
took me 2 terms to get there. And it
Okay.
didn't come about until after I got on the commission.
Wow.
So, so the project that we finally got, Norfolk, we got GDOT, we got the Federal Highway Commission, we got the local, and we got everybody on one accord, and we got there. It took another probably 10 years or better to get boots on the ground and put some pavement and asphalt to kind of get it going. So, and it started off as an A project, but to date, that project that was an A project when we started it is now probably a D project today because traffic continued to grow.
Right.
And so by the time we got it done, we're down to maybe a D now. And it's like, dang, but it took that long to get there though.
Right. Wow. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
That's a perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an ideal example in terms of the process itself. It's the journey, not necessarily the destination.
Yes. 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 And I learned a lot just from that because I came in the office in 2000, came in the office with the notion I'm going to change the world. But I had to understand how to count. At the city council level, I had to learn how to count to 4 because there's 7 council members. I learned from the commission side of things in Douglas County how to count to 3. And I always tell those that are applying to these positions, I say, learn the system, learn the game. I mean, I don't know if you're a sports analyst, but I'm going to use a sports analogy. You got to learn how to play football and understand the football and the rules of the game before you just run out there and play.
Right.
Most cases, you're going to hurt yourself. If not, you're going to fail at it because you didn't understand the rules of play. I learned the rules of play and was instrumental in doing things like the Highway 92 bypass, like the changing of just a small word in a federal setup from slum to blighted. Yeah. So just changing a word took me, 8 years to get that word changed with the help of my state rep and so on. Just right. Little things like that in opportunity zones that I helped spearhead. Okay. And got it done. And as you in my office, you'll see on the back, and I'm not in my office now, though, you'll see back there where the governor signed this thing. And, congratulations, Commissioner Mitchell, for spearheading this and getting it done along with the help of my state rep, LBJ. So, and we did it. Yes. Wow. And that had to go all the way to the federal level because that was a HUD situation wrapped up in just one little word in an opportunity zone that said, a slum consists of us. And I said, no, nobody wants to call their community slum.
Right.
But I wanted the opportunity zone monies that was bringing into my community to give them the shot in the arm to be great. So right. I said, let me fix that. Let me see, can I get a word change here? I came up with about 3 or 4 words and ended up with the opportunity zone the word became blighted. And right. They did, but it had to go to the state. Then it had to go to the federal because it was intertwined all the way from the federal all the way down to the local side of things. And guess what? We did it.
So you did this while you were a commissioner. Which role were you in during this? I know you've been working on it all the way through with every position you were in, which is genius in itself. But go ahead.
Yes, I was a commissioner at the time when I worked on that small word, because what was happening in my community is that we needed most of the grant monies that came from the federal level that talked about my community as slums. I said, no. And I explained and everybody understood, but this has been the word for 100 years. What's wrong with it? Well, I just don't want to be identified as slum.
Slum becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You say I live in the slum, that means we're only going to it's only going to get worse. You say blighted, there's the possibility that we can play it up, but we can move forward. There's a difference. Language is critical. So
yes,
I get you.
And a word makes a difference.
Right.
And because I listened to my community. They said, why you gotta, calling me, slum? I ain't no god dog a slum. And they use other choice words, and I'm not a slum. And I said, I get it. And I was sensitive to understand, like, you're right, you're not a slum.
Right.
So my community is not a slum. And the bulk of the area that was being looked at when it comes to opportunity zones was in my community.
Right.
And I didn't want to be trying to go for the monies at the federal level to get those funds sit down to the state to us. and saying, yes, I'm a slum. Yes, put some more money in this slum. That doesn't even make sense.
After you took your hard-earned dollars, you bought yourself a property. You bought a
Yes,
house on that property. You're
yes,
proud of it, but then you have to go
yes,
back and say, I live in the slums.
right. Yes,
No,
right, right. So
no, I hear
that,
you.
that, that was a no-brainer. So
Mhm.
I took on the task and I said, okay, let me see, how do I address it? Again, understanding government. How,
Right.
how do I get to this point of understanding how we can move from one word to another word? Now, here's what I didn't do though. I didn't stop accepting those funds for my community because I
Right.
said, no, 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 no. We're going to keep taking the funds. And my community was saying, no, don't take them. Tell them, heck no. Other choice words, no, no, no. But I said, no, 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 no. I said, let me work on the word. However, but the dollars and cents that will be coming into our community, it outweighs the mere fact of the word.
Right.
So I had to get my community to understand I'm
Right.
not trying to denounce or degrade my community, but I
Hmm.
know I needed those funds in my community to be
It,
successful.
I had a professor tell me once, he said, to lead the people, you have to educate the people. To educate
Yes,
the people, you have to
yes,
present a vision and narrative to capture their attention. And to do
yes.
that, communication and how you communicate is always
Come
going
on.
to be critical. So, just as you're talking about slum versus blighted, I thought about what Dr. Bell said about 25 years ago, and I'm just like, damn, he was so right. It's a perfect example. So,
Yes, yes,
I just
yes,
think that's, especially when it comes down to leadership in
yes,
terms of what our community perceives as leadership. It's not just the
yes.
role, how you function within that role, and how you bring, we live in this cultural duality anyways. And it's like, how do I bring this group to understand
Yes.
how this group functions so we can bring dollars to get the tools, the resources to change our living circumstances? Am I wrong?
Listen, you
And
know you're
I think that's brilliant.
but you see what I just said? I said
Yeah.
I couldn't walk away from the dollars and cents because
No.
of a word. Because I knew my community needed it the most.
Right.
But I had to bring my community over and say, come on, guys, just understand, I'm going to get us there. You got to trust me. So,
Right.
in communicating to my community, you're not a slum. You're
Right.
not. However, I can't walk away from the dollars and cents that's going to make our community great.
Right. We're
So,
not a
let me,
slum, but we
let
need
me
this hammer and we need this chisel. So
yes,
we're gonna get their money. We're gonna buy this hammer and this chisel and this tractor. We're gonna clear out some of this blighted stuff. That could be
yes,
cool, but we need
yes,
their money to do it. But we know
yes.
it's simply blighted, and we're gonna fix that.
So
We're
I
not.
had to say,
Yeah,
I had
it's
to say to my community, just trust me on this.
okay.
I got you. But now
Right.
understand this too, though. Here's what's even more interesting. There were other commissioners at the time that walked away from it, like, no, we're not, like, get out of here. They're not going to talk about us like that. And I'm saying, guys, look at the bigger picture. Look at the bigger picture. And
Right.
there were some that walked away from it.
Right. I'm. Oh my God. So you sound like a grandmother in the kitchen who says, "Don't worry, we're gonna cook this meal." I don't know if this happened to my screen. Okay, we're gonna cook this meal. Don't worry about the onions and all the vegetables I put in it. It's gonna be good. So,
Yes.
oh my God, I had as you're talking, it made me think of something else. As we talk about leadership, which you
Mhm.
are, the importance of communication, but it's kind of like I got to get my question right. I'm excited about what you said, so I kind of went brain dead for a second. You got to bear with me.
You
So
having a
I'm gonna
senior
move
moment.
on.
That's okay. That's okay.
I am having a senior moment. So I'm gonna move on to my next question.
Okay.
And
Okay.
where is it? So, given I know what it was. So,
Okay.
in order to get people to trust you because you're trying to lead them, you can't do that without a body of work. And you preface this whole conversation with who you were before you became an elected official.
That's
So,
correct.
but I think, and I guess it's part of the conversation, but it's more of a message for young folks out there who want to become leadership.
Yes.
You really can't gain the community's trust until you build that body of work. And they've seen that you went out there, you've sacrificed your own personal resources, your time, your energy
Yes.
to
Yes.
do things, whether it's coaching kids or grabbing a group of volunteers and cleaning up blighted properties. It's like when
Mhm.
you have that body of work, organizing community meetings when nobody else to do it, that body of work matters. Can you talk about the importance of building a body of work?
Yeah, oh, that's extremely important as a true leader. And again, you got to make sure who you are, not who you want to be, but who
Right.
you are as a person. And that way people can trust that you as a person. Because keep in mind, I said earlier, I've got Republican friends, I've got Democratic friends, I've got rich friends, I've got poor friends. I can have dialogue with them all. And that's a huge plus of building as to who I am as a person. It builds on my character and to who I am. So that all kind of comes into play when somebody needs to trust you.
Right.
Because now my granny and my mom always said, now you know, when they show you who they are, believe them.
Believe it.
So I try to show people who I am. And
Right.
while I'm showing you who I am, that is, my word is my bond. If I say it, that's the direction I'm going, unless you can convince me otherwise. If I'm trying to build this, then I'm asking for your support, and I'm going to give you how I plan to build it, so we
Right.
can all come on one accord and speak one language. So that trust factor, that trust factor that you build with your community. I built that from just being a coach, coaching their kids, and they're like, "Oh wow, he is a great guy." I wouldn't compromise anything
Right.
of that wouldn't benefit those kids, and
Right.
I'm not going to compromise. No, 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 no. If one of the coaches going left, and I'm saying like, "No, we're not going to do that." I'm
Right.
the one who will stand up and say, "We're not going to do that with these kids here or not." No, I even took kids during my coaching days, and some went to Stewart Middle School. And I had interest in the school system at that time. So I would say to their teachers, if you have any issues with Johnny, call me.
Right.
Now, I know you should call his parents first, and you should do that first. But let me know, because I'm going to pick him up at 5 o'clock this evening, and he's going to be on the football field. And I'm going to tell them, I had a chance to talk to your teachers. And all of my kids knew. Commissioner Mitchell is going to talk to my teacher. He's going to talk to my parents. He going to talk. Everybody going to know what I'm doing or not doing, because I'm going to hold them accountable for it. That was my way of holding them accountable. And so holding them accountable as a kid, holding the parents accountable as the parent, it kind of brought a great relations with all of us.
Right.
And that's where the bond was built. And that's where the trust was built. And the leadership in itself just became a part of.
And they knew you were going to do what you said
Yes.
you
Yes.
was going to do.
Yes.
So I just think that's critical, and more. I think that's more for future leadership than for the conversation. I just think there's a lesson in everything. So I really appreciate this conversation. I just want to say that. I thought I was just going to explore, the life and career of the commissioner, but no, there's life lessons in everything. So I'm gonna say it 3 times
Yes.
and give you your props.
Yes.
So if there's any one thing you wanted the community to know about your work, and I think you've already said it, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. What's the most important function about your work as a
That
commissioner?
they know that Commissioner Mitchell, he's going to tell me the truth about the matter. He's going to be very open and honest about the matter. And he's always open to listen to me as to my side of the story.
Right.
Because there's always, my mom said, there's always three sides to a story. That's your side, his side, and the truth.
Yeah.
And I'm always listening, because keep in mind, as a community leader, that's what I'm going to always be listening for, because there's always going to be one side or the other. I just got to make the ultimate decision, and hopefully it's the right decision. And keep in mind, there's never a right or wrong in all of these decisions. There's
Okay.
the compromise as to where can we all meet somewhere in the middle, or where can we compromise a little to get a lot. But the
Right.
truth of the matter is, the truth is the truth. And you
Okay.
just got to respect that and understand that nobody is truly right. Because I'll give you a prime example. When they talk about the millage rate, in the county. And we
Yep.
talking about your property taxes. And the first thing you're saying is, I don't want my millage rate to go. My property taxes are too high and rah, 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 rah. I'm like, yeah, okay, I got that. However, you also want, as a property owner or once property owner, you always want, the best of service. I want the best parks. I want to be protected. I want to make sure law enforcement is good. I want to have fire. And you want all these services that you want. So the key to that is you got to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I don't say that lightly.
No,
I think my property taxes are too high as well. But at the end of the day, we still have to pay for those services. And now with the services costs or expenses are constantly going up. I mean, with the turf war, with the cost of eggs and goods and services and everything is going up.
Right.
Your millage rate has stayed the same for the last few years outside of rolling back. So when you roll back, here's what happens. You roll back. Yes, you saved as an individual. Your house property taxes went down by, I always jokingly say $2.50, but I'm going to call it, just for round numbers, $100. You saved $100 on your property taxes. Multiply that by 150 citizens in the county. You start doing the math. That could easily turns out to be, $5 to $7 million that you rolled back. Now, keep in mind, you roll back that amount of money, but the cost of doing business, the cost of services, it went up. So I'm going to just say, for numbers purposes, it went up about $10 times all the citizens in that county. So you basically lost in the service side of things that you're asking me to assist and providing to you. Right. So be careful. As to most politicians want to look good and say, well, no, I've got the lowest property taxes in the state of Georgia, or I'm going to roll back because I want to give back to my community. But you're not going to tell them that you're going to need that eventually, because that cost didn't roll back. That expense didn't roll back.
Right.
So now you come up and run into this problem that, okay, now I've rolled back, and I'm just going to use for numbers purposes for the last 2-3 years. I've lost the county by doing this as a politician. I've lost the county by anywhere between $7 to $10 million in that course of a 3-year time span.
Okay.
Do the math. So you saved $100. And now I'm coming back to you 4 years later to say, hey, guys, we're running out of money. There's a problem. Well, what's the problem? Well, we can't afford the services that we provide for you. So either we can cut the police force, or we can cut the fire department. We can cut Parks and Rec. We can cut, but you can't cut enough to save $10 million.
Right.
Because you've been continuously going backwards. So now the problem come in, and you say, well, okay, the only other way around this is to increase the millage rate. To get back that $100 that's now is probably in 3 years is really $300. I need 3 from you. So I went from a millage rate, just for numbers purposes, I went from a current millage rate of 13. I dropped it every year, and now we at 10. I need to raise it back to catch back up with the cost by at least 6. So I need to take your 13 once upon a time 3 years ago to maybe 16 to catch back up.
Yeah.
That hits you harder. So now I got to take you up by $600. And you're saying, what the heck is going on? But the truth of the matter, you didn't understand how government operates. The operational side of government is we need those funds from property taxes, from commercial taxes, and so on, yep, to pay for these services that you so excellently you receive and you want more of. Right. So now that becomes a problem. But here's what I'm here to say, though, and I know you didn't ask this part of the question, though, but I can say to you, as long as I've been in office, over 2 decades, me, Commissioner Mitchell, has never raised the millage rate as long as I've ever been in office. And I'm only probably one commissioner of all the commissions, all the mayor and councils that has never raised or voted for a millage rate increase in my history of being on the council and on the commission.
Even though it's
Most can't say that.
even though it's absolutely necessary, you wouldn't
That's
vote
correct.
for it?
Well,
Okay.
now let make sure to be clear. Now, I never said it was off the table. I never said it was off the table. I just said I've been strategic enough in doing this and providing this public service and never had to vote for and never have voted for a millage rate increase. Never, never. But you ask most politicians, most commissioners, mayor, councils, whatever it is, I promise you, there's very few that has done it for 2 decades plus can say that they haven't. Now, again, I've been broached on the millage rate. Folks have tried to convince me to go in that direction, but I never did it though.
Okay.
Yes, never.
I'm not
Yes.
complaining. I'm in this district, and I hope to stay in this district.
Hey. Now,
It's
but
like,
again, let me enter this. I'm only one vote. Don't get that part of it twisted. I'm only one vote. So just
5
understand. Yes.
members, correct?
That's 5-member board. I'm only one vote. I'm just one of the ones who said no. I think we can do something different. I think we can manage it a different way. And I'll always plead my case in that point. Now, everybody don't always agree. But those that say, well, we're going to raise the millage rate and they got the 3 votes, then they go ahead and move along with the 3 votes. Boom. There you got it. There you have it. I'm just one of the ones that said, no, I'm not going to. Now, but the 3 votes get it passed. And so the millage rate goes up 13 to 16. That's what you get. I'm sorry. But it wasn't because of me.
Right. But understand
that's a lot of stuff, though. That's a lot.
No. But you know what? This conversation is absolutely necessary because we're all impacted by it. The minute you purchase property, you need to understand that that's going to be a possibility. That's as real. It's as real as paying your mortgage. However, when I come outside of the house where I'm at now and I see a freshly paved road, but as I drive by, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 trucks, the big roller truck, the big hot cement truck. That's money. There's a dollar value that has to be assessed. And somebody has to get paid for each of his employees for all the equipment, the maintenance. When I come outside and I see those brown barrels and my trash is getting picked up, I need that picked up.
Are you getting ready to run for office? Are you trying to tell me you're getting ready to run for office? Is that what you're trying to tell me here?
Not at all. No, we got somebody, I'm good. He's good. I like my guy. My guy is good. I can't speak for everybody else. My guy.
Okay.
But now, with that being said, let's look at the flip side. One of the ways of keeping the millage rate down for homeowners is recruiting more economic development in it.
That's correct.
Bringing in more economic development projects. So I got to ask this one because I was there long enough to see the potential mayhem that you guys avoided with the data center boom that's happening. We have data centers coming. We have neighbors who are like, absolutely no. Then we have some who are like, well, we worked out a deal on our side. Outside of the halls of justice, right?
Right.
So it's like, but you guys had to make hard decisions.
Yes.
So and we look at the interest from tech investors, it's real. But so are the environmental concerns, energy demands, water use, pollution. Now, how do you balance that growth with sustainability? Because hopefully we can bring more businesses in, but there are going to be more fears and concerns. But at the same time, if you want to keep your property tax rate down, we balance that with economic growth. Am I wrong?
You're absolutely correct. And my theory is this. This is my theory, Commissioner Mitchell, is that you got to have a balancing act, meaning you got to look at the economics and you got to look at the residential, because I'm a firm believer in that we shouldn't have all of this tax base based off of the residential.
Right.
That 13% that I was using as an example could be every bit of 26%. Because there are some communities in the state of Georgia, they strictly their income in providing the services comes on the backs of the property owners. Their millage rate is at a higher value per point. However, in Douglas County, that's not the case. Excuse me. That's not the case. So we have to balance that. We as commissioners and mayor and council have to balance that with a Google, a Red Cross, a Switch, and so on, to say, okay, because keep in mind that commercial side of things brings in a higher dollar value when it comes to taxes. But you got to also keep in mind in the balancing act, of placement, location. Is it best suited here versus across the street? But nobody wanted in their neighborhood.
Right.
However, we as commissioners got to look at it strategically to say, what is the overlay of the land of the highest and best use? You got to look at all these concepts as to why not, and then you try to move in that direction of this makes sense to do it here or not do it here. What incentives you offer the commercial entity to come on board to be a part of this? And that is abatements, tax incentives, and so on. We've got a thing that if you hire Douglasvillians, you can get a tax credit. Because I try to make sure that you got at least Douglasvillians got a chance for a job. So hire these guys, you get a tax credit. But if every county don't have those types of tools in their arsenic when it comes for economic development. So I try to create those types of wins and win-wins, and looking at location and looking at trying to hire us. We even lay out to a degree, if you're going to bring in a data center, just an example, I know that's the hot button item, but if you're bringing in a data center, then set up through West Georgia Tech or the technical institutions or colleges to at least train these guys to get that job. Because right now, that high tech job, when those of us, only thing we can do is pour concrete, won't even qualify. Won't even qualify. So we want you to line up, Mr. Business owner, businessman, line up to where these guys are at least have a shot at it. And if you get them there, then you hire them. You're also going to get a tax credit.
Right. And if you're hiring local, we create that circular spending economy where those consumer dollars here, but a lot of them have a tendency to bring in employees from outside of the area, and it negatively impacts the area where they're situated. So I get that.
And you can't stop that though, because you as a business owner, I can't tell you or make you hire or mandate that you hire Junebug. I can't do that. That's not fair to you. However, I can give you some incentive carrots to say, hey, you do this, you can get this. You do that, you can get this, and so on. But that balancing act is true. And to what we do as commissioners and as council members, it's true to the essence of it makes sense for this business to come here. And I'm not just calling out a business, but this business to come here is the perfect location. It's our future land use plan has stated this is the direction of that community and where they're going in that commercial district, and so on. And you got to weigh all those odds as to why and why not. Prime example, the data centers, since you talked about it. Let's kind of lay that out there. The data centers are a huge phenomenon that's coming around. It's like there was a time when the Family Dollars and all those guys were big hot ticket items, and you find them popping up, God knows, everywhere. Well, now those are things that are going out and downhill because they're either bankruptcy, closing, and so on. I mean, you got J.C. Penney's, you got Family Dollars, you got Forever 21, and so on. Those big boxes are shutting down. The malls are shutting down. So, but that's the cycle of economics, and you got to understand economics to get this. There's a cycle, and when that cycle comes around, it's good, and when it's good, but when it's bad, it goes out in something else. So what the future, I always ask my commissioners, and what's the future you see and see in the future of what that could be? Meaning the mall could be now a township, condo, blah, 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 with a whole lot of other stuff there. Could be. I don't know. But are you looking that far down the road? Because as we see now, based on the internet, that the big boxes are going to almost go out of business. They're going out of business because you can go online and you can just about buy anything you want. You can buy anything you want. I don't totally believe in it, but you kind of better come around because that's where it's going to be. I mean, so the malls will be a place where you go and maybe pick up what you bought, but it won't be where you go and shop for what you want. So, but here and there, it's a balancing act, and
No,
and you,
and
you have
it's I mean to cut you off, but
yes,
it's absolutely necessary information for the people who
yes,
say, well, why they vote yes.
yes,
You
yes,
know,
yes,
the community engagement portion was provided. The potential job opportunities were addressed. Educational partnerships were pushed for and prompted. Community investments pushed for and prompted.
yes,
Tax incentives versus community relief. That was
yes,
all discussed. So the thing about politics is like folks elected officials may vote for things, but most people don't see what's happening behind that closed door in terms of all the variables that were considered.
right,
So for me, you just address all that. It's like I'm aware of it, but it's hard when you go to a barbershop to get my fresh bald cut. And you're talking about this stuff as if, elected officials don't know what they're doing. They didn't think about
yes,
this, but what about us? And what about that? And it's like, no, they read all the data on energy
yes,
usage, renewable energy, talk about water consumption,
yes, yes,
environmental impact assessments, carbon
yes,
footprint, waste management,
yes,
noise and
yes,
light pollution. All that's been discussed. But when we're in those big, huge, we're in the town halls across the South where they're discussing data centers because it's
yes.
a hot button topic.
It is, it is, it is.
People aren't, unless they're paying attention closely to what the city departments are saying or what the elected officials are saying, they're not aware that all those environmental concerns have been like thoroughly vetted, looked at,
Absolutely.
talked to. And so that's why I feel like conversations like these are necessary. So I love that you took it there once I
But
threw
let
it
me
out
add, but
because
let me
people
add
need to
though.
know. Yes.
But let me add, you got to understand though, and we have to entrust if WSA tell us they can provide the water needs
Right.
for this particular data center. I have to believe that. I
Right.
can't just say, well, no, well, show me if the bucket is going to be big enough to fill up to the rim. And no, I got to entrust those experts that said what they said. If
That part.
Georgia Power says I can provide power for X center, then I have to believe that because they're
Mhm.
building as such to understand that need. They're not just building for a data center, and that's just an example. They're not only building for a data center, they're building for a future when it comes to residential and everything else that's around power and water. So when they say it, I've got to take the expert opinion as to what they can and can't do. When they say this will not affect the community itself, that their water bill is not going to go up because we kind of have to provide a much more water to this data center, hypothetically, their water bill is not going to go up because the data center is using most of the water, because that's just not, that's your water bill is what you pay, what you use, your usage, period.
Yeah.
Everybody else in your community does the same. Just because I wash my car 5 times a week and you wash yours one day a week, you're not going to pay for a 5-time usage. You're not.
Right.
It's
Right.
separate. So when the community even say stuff like, "Well, my water bill is going to go up, or my power bill is going to go up because they're going to do this," and I know it. I've seen it over at crossing in Italy. Like, I don't know what Italy is doing. I just know here, if the experts told me this is what I can do, and this is what we can provide, and this
Yeah.
is where we're going anyway, so this is not a problem, I have to believe the experts.
Right.
And I take all that data in to decide on if I'm for or against it when making that decision.
Right. And that makes sense. So I appreciate you addressing that because I think and it's not, again, just for anyone who may watch this once this airs, it's not just about the data centers. I want to be clear. It's
That's correct. Yes.
any business that comes into a neighborhood, from a pawn shop to a gas station to a Family Dollar to a data
Yes.
center to
Yes. Yes.
Bob Martin opening a warehouse. All
Yes.
that stuff is properly vetted. And so when we talk about the role of the commissioners, it's kind of like bring your car to a shop. Don't expect them to fix your car. Their job is to assess everything, tell you. It's a little different.
Yes, it
So
is. It
they
is.
rely heavily on the experts in terms of determining how they're going to make that vote. So I just want to throw that out there because I think I'm a
Thank you.
community person. I like to make sure that first and foremost, the community benefits from the information that we disseminate. So I think that's critical. So I appreciate that. And I'm
Thank you.
almost done. I ain't gonna take up your whole morning.
Okay.
All right. So talk about the role of public boards, community organizations, advisory councils, how that plays a role in your decision-making process, and how community members who also want to be a part of this vast process that we call politics,
Mhm.
how they can be involved in other capacities.
Well, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's why we have a planning and zoning board. We have a community board for dealing with community issues that they can come and bring to us. So, and we have various committees that we have just on the commission board itself. And those committees are instrumental in having those conversations that need to be had before it gets to the full board. So there's a huge impact that those that would be willing to serve on the animal control board, that will be a big help for us. So by the time we do get the information, it's been vetted to a degree to saying, yes, this will work, or no, there's no way in Haiti that it'll work. Because now when we get it, we have some input from those that have already tried to vet it or not. And we can decide on a little bit better, adding some more research to the spin to make sure that, yeah, we can do this, even though this committee said no. So these ad hoc committees are great and wonderful for community leaders and or community house moms and whomever else, dads, to come and be a part of. So that way you can be a part of the process. And
Right.
that way, if you catch it at the beginning stage, it's much easier to rectify or correct it or manage that whole spin as to whether or not we should or we shouldn't do it, because we heard from you at the very beginning. But what happens is that we come to the meeting late. We come to the party late. And that is, you come when the commissioners are at the voting session and they're ready to legislate and say yes or no. That's when you're a little late to the party, because we've done all the research, like I just said, with the ad hoc committees, the committee meetings, and the work sessions and all the other stuff.
Right.
But now we've kind of formulating an idea as to why we should vote for or against something.
Okay.
Now it's kind of sort of, now you could, that doesn't mean you can't come to that meeting, the voting session, and say yes, 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 or no, 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 and here's why. And they might change their mind. But if you've got three of these guys that already have made up their mind based on all the other information, you're probably not going to make it, though.
Right.
That's just it. I'm just,
Nah, I appreciate it. That's what we asked you for. So
yes.
here we go. Let me ask this one. Now, you over 20 years of public service.
Okay.
Talk about, if you were talking to a group of young people about people, pressure, and perseverance in terms of public service, whether you're an elected official or just a community volunteer. How do people talk? And you've talked about how you give them some advice in terms of how they would deal with people, the pressure, and perseverance.
Well, I'm a firm believer in this, though, and that is just be who you are. Don't lean heavily on the peer pressure of somebody trying to convince you to do something that is not you and you won't do and you shouldn't do. I think you've got to be man enough, woman enough to stand up to saying what your beliefs and what your thought process is as to how you got there or not, and believe in it. Believe in yourself. Have strong character as to who you are and what you represent. And, keep in mind, you got your mom and dad and others who back there saying, it's not what you do in front of me. It's what you do when you're not in front of me is what concerns me. And I shouldn't have that concern. So you better do the right thing. If not, with my kids, I tell them I'll drop kick them in a heartbeat, but I'll take my shoes off. But it's one of those, like, no, just be true to yourself and stand up for what you believe in. Have good character, have good, morals and values as to what your beliefs and what your thought process is and why you believe in this and why you shouldn't. And I'll leave with this note of saying, spiritually, I'm a very spiritual person. It may not show, you may not see me all at church on every Sunday and carrying a Bible throughout the week, but at the end of the day,
Oh, you still there? Oh. Uh-oh. You still there? Come on, come on, come on.
okay. I lost power. I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought it was me. I'm playing with my internet. I'm like, what happened? Okay.
Yeah. So,
All right.
but no, I lost power, and you can hear me now, though, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So, I don't know where I left off, but the bottom line is this: just have great morals and values and great character, and believe who you are as a person. And I think everything else will work out fine. I mean, just don't try to emulate who you're not. And that's kind of where you tend to go wrong when you try to be a politician versus being a true public servant, because that's what you were there to do, and that is to serve and do just that and stand on those principles, not on the principle of I'm a politician and now I stick my chest out and I'm just that guy. Look at me. No.
Right. And then the very last question: what does a thriving Douglas County look like 5 years from now, 2030? What's your vision for Douglasville, for Douglas County for the next 5 years? What do you think we're gonna be? Where are you leaving?
Let's see here. Well, I'm probably a little bit more further down the road than just 5 years, but we'll talk from that to me is short term. But I the north side I'm speaking of, the north side, I kind of envision that would be I don't know if you're familiar with the Atlantic Station in Atlanta, but a mini Atlantic Station on the north side. But it's going to come in a time factor of probably a 10-year span based on the Highway 92 bypass as an example of what that could be and probably will be in the coming future. It was almost going in that direction while I was on council, but I can see it even more as the future, because Douglasville will only be as successful as Douglasville can be with the help of bodies and people and rooftops and things of that caliber that can connect close to downtown Douglasville. So that north side is ripe for the pickings. And that piece that I think will probably be just that. And I've got it carved out in my little map that states that that is what the north side will look like in about 10 years.
Wow.
Because of the recycling of home ownership and land and property and so on and so forth. And when that pans out, because the Highway 92 bypass is the catalyst to that, what I just stated.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Man, listen, I'm gonna have to bring you on 3 more times next year, because I'm like, I feel like we just got about this much compacted in. But I appreciate all your time. Like I said, I don't want to take up your whole morning. I promised Sherelle an hour, and we're at that mark. So, Commissioner Mitchell, thank you for your time, your transparency, your service, your leadership. Offers a reminder that real changes are indeed possible and that real leadership does exist, and we appreciate you. So thank you for being here.
And Mr. Moss, thank you for allowing me just to speak to your audience. Have fun with all of this. Hopefully we can do it again. I just enjoy having conversations. I sometimes get to babbling about a whole lot of nothing, but I enjoyed this. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, man. Have a wonderful day.